What's going on, Bills Mafia? I'm your boy TG, it's my boy Nature Boy. Welcome back to Top Billing. But before we get started, man, make sure you hit that like, that subscribe. Make sure you click that notification bell just to let you know we got another show.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
man, we back in the mix. Back in the mix. Um, Buffalo Bills look pretty good last season. This season, could it be the best team that we had in the McDermott era? But we'll talk about that here in a second,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
For
We
right now,
shall
let's
see.
just go around the league, man. We want to make sure we talk about, just different topics around the league. Um, just some hitting points. One thing I like to probably bring up, man, is the Steelers, man. The Steelers has really made some head scratching moves this offseason. I don't think they made moves to where they're trying to win right now. I just think they're trying to uh, just go afloat on their shit, man. And they're wasting you know their key players' years. Like my boy Hayward, he might retire after this season. You know what I'm saying? And he's a big anchor to that tough nose, that hard nosed defense, man. But
Yeah.
you bring
Heart
in
and
Aaron
soul.
Rodgers, huh?
He the heart and soul.
Heart and soul. Besides Watt, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, you know, they got a lackluster offensive line. They bring in agent Aaron Rodgers, which this is his last season. He said um, he traded and paid DK Metcalf, which is, I mean, he's probably like more of a playmaker receiver than an actual good route runner. Um, you got questions at running back. You got questions, like I said, on your offensive line. You got questions, in your quarterback as well, or receivers. So then they make a trade. They got their all pro safety, and traded him to the Dolphins for Ramsey and Johnu Smith. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about that, man? Are they trying to win right now, or they just trying to be competitive?
I mean, if you listen to the talk coming out of Pittsburgh building, they claim that they're putting all they hat they tickets in one hat, and that they're going for a Super Bowl run. But the moves they making are somewhat questionable. They still haven't paid JJ Watt. He haven't showed up to none of the camps. Uh, so like it's kind of weird. Like once they brought in DK Metcalf, I'm thinking, okay, they got somebody that can pair with George Pickens, and then a couple weeks later, George Pickens gets traded. So I'm like, you didn't gain anything, by doing this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I know George Pickens for them somewhat been a headache. You know what I'm saying? I can understand them moving on from him, but it was just at the time when they got DK, they really wasn't talking about moving on from George Pickens. So it was kind of like, oh wow, I can't believe they done that. They could have had a really uh, a good two-headed monster at that wide receiver position, even if it was just going to be for 1 year. Because George Pickens, I think he would have been on his last year. Next year probably been last year on that deal. They could have traded him that off season, but yeah, it's questionable. They really let Aaron Rodgers dictate how they operated this offseason, and that's just not typical of how Pittsburgh moved,
yeah, yeah,
So, once again, I don't think the Aaron Rodgers saga is going to play as much a role in Pittsburgh as it did in New York, but they still, like I say, let him dictate how they were going to operate this offseason. They could have got a couple of quarterbacks in the draft, even if it wasn't the first round, that could have, you know what I'm saying, sit behind, watched, learn. But they didn't even attempt to make a move for any type of quarterback because they were banking on Aaron Rodgers, doing what he ultimately did. So
yeah. and
Yeah,
it was evident in the draft.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
they had their road to get Shador was just so clear, but
yeah.
they kept passing on them, kept passing on them. Not even want to bring that up. That's a different element, but um, I just think that you're right. Aaron Rodgers did dictate what they did this offseason. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think they got better at all. Um, I think
No.
they just still a stagnant team. Like I don't understand. We're bringing Ramsey to what play safety because
Yeah, because
you got Slay.
yeah, I was gonna say you look at that cornerback room with Porter Jr.
Yeah,
Uh, they brought in Slayton. I mean, Slay, right?
yeah, Slay.
Yeah, they brought in Big Play Slay. Uh, they were talks of them of Miami moving Rams to the safety. Well, I done
Okay.
seen the past couple years to where he done lost a step. It's obvious to me that he done lost a step, and he's been injury prone. He haven't played a full season since he's been in Miami. He
Yeah,
couldn't have played the whole 16, 17 games since he's been in Miami. But ultimately, I think Miami won that trade
big time,
in a sense. Yeah,
big time.
but Miami got a bunch of holes to fill on their roster anyway. So like I say, it wasn't to me. If this wasn't a trade that garnered you draft capital, then it just is. But it is what it is. When you drafting uh, players of that age, both guys over 30, you just trading veteran for veteran at this point. So yeah, it is what it is. But Pittsburgh, to me, they'll have a winning season again, but I don't think it's going to guarantee a playoff spot.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, to just say Tomlin another year in Pittsburgh.
yeah. So what about? So let's talk about their division foe. Baltimore been making some moves, man.
Oh, yeah,
This offseason. Um, I know people been speculating about, and y'all please forgive me, man. I got allergies, man. I did the yard today, and allergies been kicking my butt. So if I'm sniffling and carrying on, my eyes look a little puffy. So forgive me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's all
but
good.
Baltimore, they've been talking about Buffalo being one of the favorites, if not the favorite,
Mm-hmm.
to um, go and possibly win a Super Bowl and represent the AFC. Um, but Baltimore been having something to say about that this offseason. And I guess giving Henry the extension, uh, drafting the safety to play next to Hamilton. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they signed D Hop, which is just a veteran in that receiving room. But then also to get Jair Alexander, which is another dog. Uh,
Steal. It's
yeah,
a
steel
steal.
dog. So
We never get that lucky. We never get that lucky.
yeah,
Like this
you're
dude
right.
is this hey, this is honestly a $20 million quarterback that chose to sign for a team to try to play for a chip, and he signed for what 5, 6 million,
Yeah,
$7 million. It's unbelievable the price tag that he signed for, knowing what he's worth.
yeah,
Jair Alexander is as advertised. You see what I'm
yep,
saying?
yep.
You don't have players that humble this day and age in professional sports to where they're really willing to, that's not even considered a hometown discount because that's a team that you didn't even originally get drafted to. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? So
right.
that shows you that Jair Alexander is about business.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So just them adding Jair Alexander and Malachi Starks in the draft bolstered that secondary just that much in one draft. But
yep.
Baltimore is known for doing this. Baltimore has
Year in and year out.
yeah. You know, they have a top 5 front office in the league. It's been that way since the 2010, no, since the early 2000s. You
Yep.
know, ever since they've been in Baltimore, it's been
Yep.
this. It's been a recycling, revolving door of just talent, uh, perfect position fitting, perfect scheme fits. You know,
Yep.
it's like you know, even the guy they drafted in the second round, the edge rusher from Marshall, like, come on,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
I
saying?
heard
Like
about him too.
this is the first round talent that they got in the second round, man. After getting what some would say a top 10 or 15 talent late in the first round, you know.
Yeah.
So, like I say, this stuff, they don't have to make moves to do this. They don't have to, you know, give up a lot of draft capital to try to, bolster these players. They're just good at what they do. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
We got him
we're
for
gonna
his
have our
game,
hands,
man.
yeah, we're gonna
Got
have our hands full with them. I love that Mr. Starks opened his, big mouth.
him.
Yeah, put a little bulletin board material, uh, you know, on the board for us week 1 because Josh Allen lives for that kind of stuff.
Oh, he does. He does.
Oh, he lives. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna forget. So yeah,
I'm
I
sure.
love it.
I'm sure our team won't let him forget. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah,
that's gonna
yeah,
be. So
yeah. People
let's,
like D, yeah, Big Dog and Spencer.
especially him.
Them two, yeah, them two especially. They not gonna let him forget about it.
Yeah. So let's talk about our team, man. Enough about these other teams. So you and I both being Bill fans. God, since the early '90s, '89, in the late '80s, early '90s, and we've seen some pretty good teams, especially in the Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, Thurman Thomas era. After that, we've kind of struggled to put together a team that's been, balanced, both offense and defense. We've,
Right.
for the most part, had playmakers on offense, but consistently had solid defense. Um, some years we had horrible, we were horrible on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Um, then we start going into, the 2010s, teens, to where, shit, man, we had probably one of the best defensive lines that we assembled when Swartz was our DC. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with Super Mario, Marcel Darius, and Kyle Williams, and I believe Jerry Hughes was one of
Yep.
those.
Jerry.
It was
Yep.
one of
And
those
Jerry.
players.
Yep. Jerry Hughes was coming out the bench.
Yeah. Who
Yep.
was the other end?
I'm trying to think of who the starter was. I cannot think of who it was. He wasn't as big a factor in the
Yeah.
pass rush, but I cannot think of who the started would have been right end, I believe. Or then Mario played the right end. Would have been left end. I can't remember who it was.
But Hughes played that second year they was together, correct? He started that second year because he was coming off
Yeah,
the
he
bench that
started the
first year.
second year. Yeah,
Yeah.
he said
So
he got 10 off the bench that first year and then started the second year and got another 10.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
that defensive line was probably the best defensive line that me personally I've ever seen. They put up over 50 sacks both seasons just
Yeah,
rushing four. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. They
um,
Marcel had a year double digit sacks. Kyle Williams had a year double digit sacks maybe that next season. Mario, his first 3 years there,
yeah,
he was pretty much just dominant. Uh,
Jerry
and
Hughes.
and Jerry Hughes, man, like I say, he was that spark plug on that came in on passing downs. That he had a bend on him out this world when he was young, man. He'd get around that edge so quick. We really got him on a steal in that trade for Kevin Shepard because it was a straight up player for player trade. Jerry Hughes, people was considering him to
Us.
be a bit underwhelming, but to me it was idiotic to call somebody a bust when you're playing behind two all pros
It's true.
and Robert
That is
Mathis
true.
and Freeman.
Like
How you
Freeman,
gonna get
yeah.
on the field with that? You know what I'm saying? So he proved that they just really uh, got rid of him a year too early. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all it was.
Yeah.
Same mistake we made with the big boy in Cleveland, Wyatt Teller.
Teller, yeah. I know, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
we'll never let Brandon Bean
Well,
disappoint.
I think honestly, Brandon Bean made up for that loss. When you look at what our offensive line is built now, he made up for it. We could easily be still suffering, from a move like that, trying to replace a talent that we had, because our offensive line has been the most horrendous part of this team through the draft and coming
Yeah.
into early into Josh Allen's career.
Yeah.
So him sticking with Spencer Brown when a lot of teams probably would have gave up on him a year too early, uh, uh, getting a steal on a first round talent in Osiris, getting him late in the second round, and then building pretty much around Dion since he's been there. It's we have the maybe the most solid offensive line in AFC. When you think about it from left tackle to right tackle, everybody's dependable. Uh, if you want to consider Edwards the weak link, then hell, I'm fine with that. That's a hell of a weak link to have. You know what
He
I'm
sure
saying?
is. He sure
You
is.
know, yeah, yeah. So uh, now when I think about this team going into this season and it being the best team that McDermott has had,
But is it?
I I can't say so right now. Now, one thing I can say about this offseason is that what we've done with free agency and draft has probably been the the most cohesive with the two going into a season. For the simple fact that
The two you mean in offense and defense.
no, I mean in free agents that we brought in, pairing along with the draft picks that we brought in.
Okay. Okay.
It's like what we did in the draft, it showed you that we were hell bent on fixing a problem that we done had for years. But in the same sense, during the McDermott era, we've gone into seasons coming off of seasons with a top 5 defense. And it ain't meant shit because we haven't had the playmakers, we haven't had the guys, the in the moment guys to come up big, or during the big games, that top 5 defense don't show up at all.
Yeah. And
So
that's yeah.
yeah,
So let
so
me oh, go ahead. Sorry.
going into this season, the way they approached it, I feel like this is the best approached off season we done had in the Josh Allen era, Josh Allen McDermott era.
Gotcha. I think it is the best team. Um, to your point too, is how we man. Look, man, I look like a raccoon, man. Let me fix this lighting over here. There we go. Somebody done messed up my lighting. I'm just gonna have to
Yeah,
roll with it. But I think this is the best team, and I'm gonna tell you why. So mentioning the best defensive line that I think that we had, then in come McDermott after the Rich Ryan freak show that happened. We
debacle.
we we've had a solid defense. So Alexander, Kyle Williams, names like that. Um, and we was pretty. stellar or on defense, but our offense had to catch up. Um, we brought in Steph Diggs. Before that, we brought in John Brown uh, and Bees, but
Yeah.
Steph Diggs really catapulted his offense. And I
Hmm.
think that year we did have the number one defense. Now we had the number one defense on paper, but as far as performance, at times we didn't see it. Tremaine Edmonds, couldn't get off blocks, and our defensive line still not manhandling the line of scrimmage.
Hmm.
Um, we had playmakers. We had the best secondary. But
Our secondary was the reason why our numbers looked the way that it did.
exactly my point, because we couldn't, we didn't, to your point, didn't do anything in the trenches. Um,
Right.
we struggled when it mattered. Like I say, Leslie Frazier's defense, we were number one coming into the playoffs, but my gosh, we got gashed, and it was hard to watch knowing that, well, yeah, we can say we had the number one defense, and then we had this prolific offense, um, but like you say, when it mattered, it didn't show. Um, we addressed it multiple times uh, in a draft, getting Boogie and AJ and Russo, and you know, and it still hasn't produced anything.
Right.
In signing Von Miller, so wish he got ridiculed for that, but I understood why he did that, because he was like, man, we need to get a closer, because he knows that the people that we have still developing, but they're, I ain't gonna say not good enough, but can't get the job done.
Right.
Ed Oliver, drafting him top 10, you know, you put me on Ed Oliver, and I seen what he did in Houston, man. And hell, me and you both was excited when he got drafted,
Yep.
for Buffalo, and he probably had one dominant year when he had 9.5 sacks
Yep.
2 seasons ago. So
And two solid seasons, and the other seasons it's been a wash to me.
yeah, so I mean, it's just very inconsistent play from our defense that we've shown. Um, Offense, it's kind of been up and down as well, but we still put up points because JA 17. Um, but as far as like last season, our offense really put it together. And
Oh yeah.
and it was a season to where people thought that we was out left for dead. Um,
Hmm.
but you and I both knew that when you start thinking about what the coaches are doing for the offseason to get ready and prepare, they're not just going to go to battle with the same type of plan, like we have 14 outside numbers and running routes and killing you over the top. We didn't have that, you know. We went to battle with what we had, seeing that we need somebody, to help create separation, and then it was off to the races from there.
Yeah.
Um, so our offense, we're putting up good numbers. The best I've seen JA 17 play the quarterback position, because it was more here rather than his ability,
Yep.
his physical ability. Um, but our defense didn't, like it was more like bend don't break, always rely on the big plays. But when those big plays wasn't happening, we couldn't make stops. So
Yep.
let's fast forward to the off season where we have the draft, where we have, free agency. Kudos for, all those who we resigned. And, you know, as far as like, getting Josh Palmer and going into the draft, we draft 3 defensive linemen, which I think that's going to make significant contributions this season. I'm excited and more optimistic about not only us competing at a high level, man, but this can possibly be the best team that Sean McDermott has ever had since he's been at the helm in Buffalo.
Yeah,
Um,
and let me piggyback off something. You know, the previous drafts where we drafted Boogie and AJ in the same, was it Boogie and AJ in the same draft, or was
yeah,
it Greg and Boogie?
in the second round,
No, it was Greg and Boogie. Yeah, it was
it was
Greg and
Greg and
Boogie.
Boogie. You're right.
Yeah, AJ came by himself. Thing
Yeah,
is, all 3 of those guys, same player. Same player. We
same
drafted the
player.
same player 3 times. Well,
Yeah,
this year in the draft, we drafted 3 different type of defensive linemen. You know, it wasn't the
yeah,
same. It wasn't no, same. So they playing the same position. No, we drafted 3 different type of defensive linemen. We drafted a mountain, and then we drafted a versatile inside interior guy, and then we drafted a guy that's a superior athlete as far as his measurables, but also has the experience and the headiness to where he could play on the field day one, even though he don't have to in Landon Jackson.
yeah,
So the way they went about it, I think, was a little bit more strategic than them saying, "No, this is our prototypical defensive lineman. We gonna draft this guy," And that's what
yeah,
I felt like we reached with AJ, we reached with Boogie. Greg was a good pick for where we drafted him at, but I wouldn't have picked Greg Rousseau at 15, you know. So picking him at 30, where we picked him at 28, 30, wherever it was perfect. But
yeah,
I feel like AJ and Boogie were both desperate type picks, you know.
yeah. I agree. It was because we couldn't get a pass rush, and
Right.
coming out, I mean, and especially how the Buffalo Bills grade their players. They don't just look at them as players; they see how they are with their character too. So you put those
Mm-hmm.
two together, and that's why you get somebody like a Boogie Basham, and you know, uh, in the second round as well. So, um, but this year, in particular, what we done on the defensive line and getting Hoyt and signing Bosa and Ogunjobi. I'm just I have never been as excited about the defensive line itself in its entirety. Um, I was excited about Vaughn. I was excited about Ed Oliver, but as his entirety, as a positional, as a across the board, I haven't been as excited since Super Mario came that year to Buffalo,
Yeah.
and I think that also what's going to contribute to our defensive line play is what's his name? Coach is it Coach Nelson? The the uh the senior advisor, I think that's his name. That's his
I
title.
don't know.
So, we brought in I believe his name is if I got it wrong, forgive me, but I believe it's Coach Nelson. So Coach West is listed as the defensive line coach. Um
Mm-hmm.
apparently, you know, he needs development as a coach. It is no secret. It's been no secret during mini camp and OTAs because Coach Nelson's been running the show and just listening to other reporters. Coach West has been holding the dummies. So
Yeah.
um, I'm excited because Coach Nelson, he brings experience. He's been a defensive coordinator. Um, so, a little bit more, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? I would probably use the word hard nosed compared to the defensive lineman coaches that we had in the past. And what's his name? Foster? Eric, what was the dude that was
Washington.
there? Washington, sorry.
Washington.
Eric Washington and Coach West. So knowing that we have that type of coach, um, that's putting fire in their butts, man, is I'm more optimistic outside of our acquisitions at defensive line, um, to know that we're going to produce at a high level, with that front four. Um, Looking at our linebackers, Jesus, Matt Milano and what's my boy name, Bernard.
Sorry, but
I mean, it's seeing them together. Probably the first, about 4 games together before Milano got hurt. Um, Man, they would just feed each other so well. So to
oh
have
yeah,
that back, uh, it's gonna be good to watch. And then Dorian Williams, man, Jesus Christ.
oh yeah. Dorian Williams said it perfectly. When you show violence on tape, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It get in people's head pretty much. You know what I'm saying.
yeah,
They know what you bring to the table. I told
yeah,
you from day one of me seeing that boy of what he was gonna be and how he was gonna play. And I had never seen him play a down of football.
yeah,
I could just tell from his build, his measurables, his
yeah.
his mindset in his interviews. I'm like, yeah, this dude got a smile on his face, but I can tell this dude right here uses his body as a weapon, and that's
Yeah,
what we need. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? We
yeah,
need we need guys that's gonna use their bodies as weapons. We need him and Taylor Rapp to be out there flying around like mindless zombies, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? For real, that's how they play. It's like they see food and they seek. You know what I'm saying? That's all.
yeah,
That's all they see is the ball, and they going for it. They don't care what the outcome is as long as they get the ball carrier down. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
we hadn't had that on this defense at all during the McDermott era. We
Nope,
haven't.
nope. And that's
There's
something
been
that we thought.
nobody,
We thought Tremaine Edmonds. We thought Tremaine Edmonds was going to be that way.
but he
But
was
after
too. His
seeing,
that ain't even his personality.
it sure is a nice guy.
Yeah,
He. I'm not gonna talk about Tremaine Edmonds like that. Um, but Dorian Williams, man. Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, he still led the teams in tackles after Milano even came back and put him on the bench and
yeah, by
lost
a
playing
long
time.
shot,
Yeah,
by a long
he
shot.
still led the team in tackles. So that says a lot, man. I hearing on what he's been doing this offseason, man, flying around. He's comfortable in the playbook.
Hmm.
I just putting he has to play more. He
Yeah,
has to play more. So
yeah.
just
He,
just
he's a
just to
big
see,
he's a big reason why Baltimore's run game looked the way it did in the playoffs compared to what it did when we played them in the regular
yeah,
season.
I agree.
And I told you going into that game, we're coming out of nickel. We're not going to play this game, this
Yeah,
whole game in nickel. And you seen 42 out there on the field a lot that game, and he and
yeah.
he had a huge impact, man. They boy, that game was night and day compared to how
Compared to the
we went
first
it,
one. Yep,
about that running game, man.
yeah,
I actually watched that game 2 times since it been on YouTube. But
yeah,
yeah, I just was impressed at how they went about it. Matt Milano, just watching that game again, Matt Milano was back. He was back. That Baltimore game, that was the Matt Milano that got injured the Jacksonville game.
yeah,
Yeah, that was him. I mean, if you see how heady he was in that game, how he approached, you know, the way he was spying Jackson early on, just the plays he was making on the ball, shooting the gaps the way that we known him to do in the past. It was just all there. It's just like it slowly came back to him, because them first couple of weeks, I was like, man, I don't know about Matt. I'm
I
like,
mean,
man, been a long. I mean, you missed that much time. I mean,
yeah,
can't
it's hard.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
it was. I'm listening to people like, oh, criticizing his play. It was hard to watch, and
yeah,
you had to work him back into that. I would have seen him they'll do more of a pitch count, knowing how well Dorian Wills was playing, and implement Milano so he can build up his reps. Y'all would love to have seen that, but he got in and got his reps the hard way, and it paid off in the playoffs. To your point,
Yeah. My only concern with it was his age, uh, him coming off an injury and then getting hurt right back again, missing that much more time. He missed over 10 games again. It's almost like you really done missed 2 years of
yeah,
contact.
yeah,
And I was just wondering, you like when a person get a certain age, ain't no guarantee their legs gonna get back up under them. And that was the
that's
only
true.
thing I was worried about. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the only thing I was worried about. Once I seen that the mind and the body was working hand in hand, yeah, the
yeah,
concern was gone. Like, yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for this season to kick off and see those just to have two linebackers with that kind of instinct.
yep.
Man, just imagine that they were 240 pounds. Whew. You'd have Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis all over
Well, I mean,
again,
you
big
would have
dog.
had Thomas Davis and Luke
Oh
Kuechly.
yeah, Luke Kuechly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Man,
So,
man, man.
but looking at our secondary, um, which I'm excited that we drafted a corner in the first
Mm-hmm.
round. We bolstered them up, man. I mean, it's like every position that we have a good starting core, and we also have a good depth.
Yeah,
And the secondary is just another position group that we
right.
did a good job with. You
Yeah,
know, can Trey White start week 1? He sure can.
yeah.
Can Maxwell Harrison start in week 1? He sure can.
Yeah, but I'm
So
glad. I'm glad Maxwell Harrison is not getting drafted into the position that Trey White did when he came out. See, because we had to get Trey White because we needed a number one cornerback.
yeah,
To be in that McDermott system to go with Poyer and Hyde, where Maxwell Harrison is a need, but not a need to where if he don't work out week one, we screwed. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So yeah, he's more of a luxury. And the type of he's not the prototypical cornerback that we would normally draft. So
yeah,
I was excited to see a 4.2, 4.3 guy come off the board. You know how I am about measurables, man. Some
yeah,
stuff you just can't teach.
yeah. So it was good it's good to have him, and our secondary, man, is we just got to put it together, stay healthy, put together. Which Cole Bishop can man that position down. If not, then we just got to see who else can fill up that position, because we do have depth. Um,
Oh yeah. The
and
two late round picks, man, I feel like honestly, we might have found two guys. Well, normally we got one guy that we might can squeeze out of it. I think we got two of them in Dorian Strong and Hancock. Well, I
yep,
think these guys they gang. I think they gang. You could have them to have to come in early in the season to where by the time the playoffs roll around, they're just they already there. I feel like they don't have to be groomed as much as some players coming out of
right,
college, man.
right,
It just seemed like up here, man, like they got it, man. Like, yeah, they have the credentials, they have the mindset and the confidence, to go out, learn this playbook and be beneficial to the defense, whether they getting playing time or if it's on special teams or whatever reserve role they have. It's gonna be hard for players like Cam Lewis and Jamarcus Ingram to make this squad this year. It's gonna be real hard for them to make the
yeah,
team.
yeah. I agree. Mainly Jamarcus Ingram. Um,
Yeah,
I like his play. He's great on special teams. Really, both of them. Big physical players, but you know, best man wins. And I love the depth that we again put together to compete at a high level. This is probably the most loaded team on both, mainly defense, um, mainly on defense, to where you know guys will have to fight for jobs to win. Um,
yeah,
so transition to the offense, but before we do that, what do you see this defense doing this year? Do you see them being the best defense that Sean McDermott has ever had during his tenure in Buffalo, or do you see Babbage still, you know, coach us to make big plays? Um, Probably see us as a top 15 defense. Like, how do you see this defense going into this year?
Week one, I see us coming out the gate slow. Not just getting ran over and anything like that, but it's gonna take some time for it to gel, because you implementing a lot of new faces with youth. I think this is probably the biggest turnover we done had on defense since McDermott's been here from top to bottom. Uh, but by week 17, going into the playoffs, it could possibly be the best defense that he's put on the field since he's been in Buffalo. It's just one of those things that it's a wait and see game because, like I say, that's that you hit the nail on the head. The free agents that we brought in on defense to go along with the guys that we drafted on defense. Like when you add that much talent at one time, like man, it could be a turnaround where that defense could look dominant week one. You know, because we're gonna have some guys on the field. The younger guys. It's probably a good thing that Michael Hart and Ogunjobi is suspended for the first 6 games because
Yeah,
now we can get these young boys out there and get them some reps, get them some experience. And that's gonna be huge for them.
yeah.
I feel like I mean like you say, I'm super excited. This is probably the most excited I've been about a defense, since the cold front defense. So yeah, man, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Now I think with the linebacker position being able to be the glue to hold this down, you
Hmm.
know, yeah, it could work out, man. It could work out. It could be like I say by week 17, but week one, no.
You don't think so about week one?
No. It's like I say, it's gonna take some time to jail, and then you got to
Who?
think what them young
What's
boys
but
finna,
what's gelling
what
though
them.
besides the defensive lineman?
That's what I'm saying. Even the secondary somewhat because you got to infuse some of them young guys. Some of them young guys got to get out there, at some point, whether it's somebody get tired or whatever they got. But uh, week one, man, we taking on a juggernaut that didn't lose nothing. Pretty much. I mean, yeah, we gonna see what they got week one. Yeah, you can
Yeah, I
believe
mean,
that.
yeah, it is what it is. I ain't nobody's. I'm not worried about it. I think, for me, my opinion, I think we're coming out the gates flying around. I mean, we're not really haven't lost anything on defense so for our corner. Like I said, you put in a Maxwell Harrison, that'll probably be the only position that's probably going to be a little rocky. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But if you have somebody like Trey White that's out there that's already been in the system, I don't think this defense misses a beat. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So I mean, you still have Cole Bishop if he wins the position. If not, you still got Damar Hamlin, who was a starter
Hmm.
last year. Rap.
Yeah.
You got Benford. You know what I'm saying? You got three of your four defensive linemen coming back. And Russo, Oliver, Jones. Bosa will be, the man you know, that hasn't been, on our team last year, but I mean, he's a veteran. So,
Yeah.
and then, like you said, to your point, you have a Milano and Bernard that's the glue to this defense. So that's what I'm saying. Like I think that I think we're gonna come out flying around, but also to your point, later on in the season, I think we play a little bit more free. Um,
Right.
going into the playoffs and then making some noise in the playoffs. But
Because
I
I'm
have,
still concerned. I'm still concerned about our run defense going into week 1. I'm just saying, I'm just concerned. They are going to have to prove to me that they can stop the run. The Buffalo Bills defense have never proven to be, even during the Bruce Smith era, Jim Kelly era, we couldn't stop the run. We've never been able to stop the run. It's pissed me off because I've seen defenses that refuse to give up 100 yards on the ground where we religiously give up 100 yards on the ground. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
it's almost like that goddamn wet paper towel ass defense we play. It's just like, I hate seeing it. It's discouraging to watch sometimes. I mean, it's plenty of times we be up 20 points and I'm cussing at the goddamn TV because we can't uh we can't get a goddamn stop on 2nd and 7 where they're handing it off, getting first downs. That shit pisses me off sometimes.
yeah,
I'm getting fired up now just thinking about it, and we ain't nowhere near live action. You know what I'm saying? Like for real. I just think about it, man. Like, I love Terrell Bernard's game and the way he plays, man. But you know good and well, boy, he get his ass thrown up at the club a lot. You know what I'm saying? He do. He get his ass thrown up at the club a lot, you know.
yeah,
But it
yeah.
is
He
what it
does,
is. It,
man.
it, it comes with his stature, and but the way he plays the position compared to the guy that was before him, I'd take Terrell Bernard any day of the week. You know what I'm
Yep,
saying? Because he's gonna stick his nose in there. He's gonna read it better. He's
yep,
not never out of position. He might, like I say, he might get thrown around from time to time, but he's never like, damn, why the hell was he way over there in the ball? The ball going up the left sideline, and this motherfucker still chasing the ball fake going to the right. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
yeah, like but the thing is, it did look good before Matt Milano got hurt.
It
But
did. Yeah,
DQ is also playing at a different level too
I think
during
he's gonna
that
play
time.
I think he's gonna play at a different level this year too, because of
I,
competition.
yeah, I can say he better. He better because I believe like the way they talk about Ogun Joby, if he come back in and DQ ain't did shit by week 6, DQ has to be sitting at the back of that bench or probably even
Traded.
released. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
traded.
yeah, released. Yeah, they ain't
It'd
trading
be
his
hard.
ass.
It'd be hard to trade somebody at that age. You have to trade him for a 7th round pickup for pennies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But you're right, man. Well, we both right. Shit. Um, it's just us putting it together. We have the pieces, and we're gonna see what we do. So let's move on to
yeah,
the offense, man. We got Joshua Palmer, um, free agent. We got Elijah Moore, which was to me the icing on the cake, or
yep. That was that.
or
Hey,
the cherry on top.
yeah.
Um,
I honestly, I was more excited about him than I was Joshua Palmer.
well, would you have been more excited about him if we didn't sign Joshua Palmer?
No, it would have been it wouldn't have been as exciting of a pick, but I still would have been excited for it because I know what type of receiver he is, and I know what type of talent he's played with at quarterback. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
A guy like him could come in and be uh, 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 even better John Brown. You know what I'm saying? This dude here, man, and I hate to reference a video game, but I have a hard time dealing with this motherfucker on Mad. Like I do. Like ever since he's been on the game, man, when he's with the Jets, you know what I'm saying? Playing with the Bills, having to play him, he was tough to deal with in the slot. And in Cleveland, he got them burners. He run good routes, you know what I'm saying?
yep,
And Taron Johnson, man to man coverage ain't all this thing, all that high on Madden. So yeah, he get toasted man to man against slot receivers like that. But hell, he get toasted man to man in real life. But yeah, I love Taron Johnson. You know good and well though. Taron
yeah,
Johnson is kind of overrated in the coverage game. They
Yeah.
they pump him up a lot. I don't mind it, but I know what I see week in and week out dealing with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Elijah Moore signing was huge. We didn't really have many holes to fill on offense. I was hoping we would bring in a like a bigger bodied guy, somebody that could help in the run game like how Mac Hollins did. Mac Hollins was huge filling the role that Gabe Davis pretty much played in that offense, being a big receiver, good run blocker, uh, you know, just like I said, a big body. It ain't got to be no burner or nothing like that. But I'm interested to see who fills that role. Uh, could be the tight end from Georgia Tech. I'm
That's what they're
interested to see.
saying.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much playing time he get. See, because with Mac being on the field, it wasn't always guaranteed that was going to be a handoff. Do I feel like if it's this guy from Georgia Tech, there's 95% of the time it's probably going to be a run. But I don't know. He might surprise us with his receiving
He
skills. You
got some
never know.
skills, man. You haven't been hearing about him in camp.
Nah, I haven't, man.
He's been turning
Yeah, I
heads
haven't.
with his
Yeah,
receiving ability.
yeah,
So,
that's
I
good.
mean, I'm optimistic about that. I mean, I don't want him to be like a jumbo pack, and which we can put him in that jumbo pack, and him still go out there and run some routes. I mean, it's however Joe Brady wants to utilize his weapons, man.
Yeah.
But to your point, my opinion about his offense, I was excited about the resigning of Shakir, and
Oh
um,
yeah.
we bringing back our offensive line. So there's camaraderie across the board. You bring in someone like Joshua Palmer, who's Joshua Palmer been he just made plays against us repeatedly, even with the third string, second string quarterback. The
Yeah.
last time we played, so
Yeah. Yeah. He was he
Joshua
was
Palmer always
killing.
gave us headaches, man.
Yeah.
So I was excited. Well, I kind of knew that we was going to get him this offseason.
Really, out of everybody, I mean, it wasn't. I wasn't surprised by any move because I wasn't expecting nothing. But yeah, it's like when we got him, I'm like, But then I started hearing about his separation rate, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just the offense he was playing in, being the third wheel for most of the time. And then last year they went to a more run-oriented offense. You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at
oh
Herbert, yeah, if you look at Herbert's numbers, they were down all the way across the board. I know Lad McConkey had a hell of a rookie season, 1,100 yards, but when you look at Herbert's numbers, those are the lowest numbers he had ever had since he been in the league. Most
yeah,
efficient, but the numbers were low ball, like it
yeah,
wasn't a 300-yard, 3-4 touchdown games like he used to, having out of Herbert. He was, boom or bust for the most part. But Los Angeles also had the best season they done had since Herbert been there,
well, look
and
at
it's
Josh
almost,
Allen. Josh Allen is no different.
yeah, and that's what I was going to say. It's the same exact thing with Josh Allen this past season. It wasn't like you're taking the ball out of these guys' hands because they're not capable. No, you're just opening up the offense that much more so the defense has that much more to worry about. Remember, I told you for years, if we were for to ever have any kind of run game, man, our offense would be dominant. And we had the best offense we done had literally since Josh Allen's been there. You know what I'm saying? 30
Hmm.
touchdowns passing, 30 touchdowns rushing. You know, it was phenomenal to watch. And it wasn't always, like you say, these marvelous down the field throws. And it wasn't him having to use his athletic ability all the time. When he
Right.
did have to utilize his athletic ability, it was hitting more because he was having to do it less,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For the
Hmm.
most part, when Josh rolled out to the right this year and had to make a play, it was marvelous. I don't even think he threw an interception this year from what I seen on rollouts. Couple of batted down balls. I cannot recall an interception this season where Josh Allen was rolling to his right, trying to make, one of his miraculous type throws and threw an interception. It's
Yeah.
just it's not even registering in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
it's
is,
not.
I mean, the thing is that he was careful with the ball. It's his
Yeah,
best season that he's had of protecting the football in his career. So,
yeah,
um, but to get back to Joshua Palmer, I mean, I was excited about Joshua Palmer. I knew the only reason why I knew is because we got Curtis Samuel last season, and we needed somebody to, you know, um, be a good route runner, and I knew Joshua Palmer was a good route runner because I see
yeah,
him give it to us.
yeah,
He's a playmaker. He's more. I put it like this: he'll be to the offense of what Amari Cooper was to the offense, but younger. Um,
hmm,
Sprinkle in Elijah Moore, who can take the top off of defense. You still have Keon Coleman. You still have Shakir. You got a Dalton Kincaid who's going to prove people wrong this season. Dawson Knox is Mr. Reliable to me. Um, you know, and then we got a three-headed monsters in the backfield. This
yeah,
offense will probably put up better numbers stat wise. I think we'll probably put up better passing numbers than we did this past season
hmm,
with the addition of running the football. Now, is James Cooks going to get 16 touchdowns again? Probably not. He'll probably get about
no,
8. But for the most part, overall, I think this is probably be the most prolific offense that we've had since that uh, Sanders uh, was Beasley there with Sanders,
yeah, he was
Beasley,
there
Sanders,
for
and Diggs.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So since that that
hmm,
that team, I think that it'll be the most prolific offense since that team.
yeah,
Because not only because of the playmakers we acquired that fits the system, but also because of our running game. We didn't have a good running game, to your
right.
point, back then. During that time,
Mhm.
um,
And
and
and then
even
and
with Day
then
Ball,
and, right, and then you got to think too, Coleman being one more year in the system. Uh, uh, God, you just said his name.
Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuels being one more year in the system, it's going to help it out that much more. You got to think these guys had to get adjusted, especially Samuel getting injured so early into camp, coming into the season. He was banged up. Coleman was looking good. His trajectory was going up. Then he breaks his wrist, and you don't see much more. You didn't see the same player at all once he came back. And I hate that he's getting so much. So much. It's almost like they're saying he didn't show up this year, and we know that's not the case. Keon Coleman was doing pretty good for him to be as raw of a player that he is coming into the situation that he was coming into, being as needed as he was.
Yeah, yeah,
Really the situation that we needed somebody with a little bit more experience, for that situation. But what we got was an athlete, and he showed his athletic ability at times. He showed that he could take the short pass to the house.
hmm
He's not a burner, but when he get the ball in his hands, he turns into an athlete. Better cut that out.
yeah. So I
But
think that um, his receiving yards wasn't that much far off from Worthy, Xavier Worthy.
right,
Xavier
and
Worthy probably had more receptions, but
and that
his
was with
receiving
missed
yards
time.
wasn't that far off.
Yeah, and that's with missed time. This man
This
averaged
time, you're right.
19 yards. Yeah, 19 yards a catch.
Yeah, So, just thinking about what he gonna bring to the offense, we can't forget about him. Like you
Oh
said,
no.
he's raw, raw ability. Uh, 1 year into the system, you're gonna see what he's able to do. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the same thing I said about this defense is the same thing I'm gonna say about this offense. It's gonna be probably the best offense that we have in the McDermott era. Now,
Yeah.
to say that, and we know what kind of season it was, what kind of offensive juggernaut that we had when Diggs first came. The thing is about McDermott is that he always wanted to run the ball. Dayball didn't provide that for him.
Right.
Dayball was more of an air raid, air attack, and put Josh Allen on display. You bring in Dorsey, Dorsey just couldn't find his way. But you bring in Brady. Brady was, young. McDermott was able to sit him down, and Brady was able to comprehend what Sean McDermott wanted, what identity he wanted on offense,
Mhm.
and it made sense. It's just a matter of, you know, you're gonna make this a dick measuring contest to show that that your offense can push the ball down the field through the air, or are you gonna be strategic or and just beat up the other team's defense and make them stop you.
Yeah.
That's how you play fucking football, man. It's like, some
Right.
teams have lost that. Sean
Hmm.
McDermott wanted to implement that. He wasn't able to do it with Dayball, but Joe Brady is able to implement that, and he has. Now you got more playmakers to push the ball down the field and make this a really explosive offense. So, it's more like pick your poison, man. You can put fucking James Cook in the slot if you wanted to, you
Yeah.
know. Ray Davis, even Ty Johnson, you can put your running backs, motion them out, and however you want to do it, create,
Man,
you know.
Ty Johnson probably had more tough catches this year than half of the wide receivers in the NFL.
I agree.
When it
I
come to
agree.
making tough, when it came to making tough catches this year, man, hey, he didn't miss, he didn't drop not one.
Not
Yeah,
one,
he didn't drop
especially
not
that
one.
one he had in that back in the end zone.
Yeah, man. When he
That
went,
was
yeah.
that
And
was
then the
masterful.
thing is, he did it twice this year. He did it twice this year. He did it against San Francisco in the back of the end zone, and I want to say, was it against the Jets? Somebody else where he's rolling out in the back of the end zone, caught it in the back of the end zone, sliding down. God, who was that? I can't even think right
He
now.
was, yeah,
But
barely on that white line.
yeah, yeah,
Barely on
and
that
it was
white line.
amazing.
That was that's what you
Yeah,
call awareness, man.
yeah, and then that was the reason why James Cook couldn't get on the field on third downs, man. Ty Johnson's ability to catch the ball and run and pass block, of course,
Yeah, yeah.
you couldn't keep him off the field on third downs, because for a while I'm thinking, James is a little more explosive. James can, off a route take it to the house. You know what I'm saying? But
Hmm.
as the season went along, I like, okay, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it don't bother me that much, because James
yeah.
Cook understood had way more rushing yards than what he did if it wasn't for Ty Johnson not being able to be kept on the bench.
I agree. I think
Yeah,
James knows that too. That's why he's asking for that type of money. But that's a different type of conversation, man. That's a different
right, right.
conversation. But
James know he fucked up in that situation.
well, you know what though? To be honest with you, James Cook became the running back that he did because of Ray Davis. The arrival of Ray Davis in competition made James Cook to be a more physical back than
Okay,
he
yeah, just
was.
okay. I'm thinking, yes, I just said because to me he arrived the year before. He put up 1100, didn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He did arrive, but you're right. My point is him to be a more in between the tackle,
Yeah,
you know, deliver punishment type of runner.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. He
came
wasn't
only
going
because
down. He
Ray
wasn't.
Davis
Yeah,
arrived.
right. He wasn't going down as much with shoestring tackles as he was
Mhm.
that second year and that first year.
Yep.
Yeah, you could blow on him and he would, you can blow him out of bounds. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
And
about.
But also Coach McDermott said it too. You know, it was like, well, how do you feel about James' growth? And and I'm not saying it verbatimly, but one of the interviews, about his process, and I remember Coach saying competition and bring the best out of anybody. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was like he kind of cut that short, and then of course gave the man his praises, but you
Yeah.
know, yeah, Ray Davis was cutting the fool in last camp, and James Cook had to show up, man.
Oh yeah,
So
James looked like he done put on a little more weight this year coming in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He to prove a point, man. I can't wait to see him perform this season along with everybody else. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, man. All right, man. That's our time here, man. That's our time. Good show.
Oh
We're
yeah.
gonna get back with you guys. Later on our next show. But before we head out of here, man, don't forget to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell to let you know we got another show. All right,
Yeah.
man. I'm
We're
your
gonna try
boy
to
T.
start doing we're gonna try to start doing some live shows too. Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah,
try to
man.
start getting
We are gonna
on some
start doing some
live
live
shows
shows, so
too.
man. Y'all
Yeah,
definitely tune in, man. So that's why it's
yeah,
important for you to hit that notification bell
yeah.
so you can
We
guys
wanna
get some
interact.
live action.
We wanna interact with y'all, you know.
Sure do, sure do. So yeah, I'm your boy TG, your boy Nature Boy, and it's top billing, man. We'll see you next time. We out.
All right, man. Holla.